Right, we're good.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey! How are you all?
Well, what an honour.
Yeah.
This is,
What an honour. Oh, I forgot me thing. Carry on, you keep going.
Keep going, Ben. It's an honour to
yeah.
have you in the Crafty Nihilist
Thanks.
kitchen.
Thank you very much. I think it's the first time, but it's the first time I've done a live stream with you,
Absolutely.
Mark, I think. And we've got Secret Sally opposite. She's too shy. Well, she's too
shy.
I don't know. She doesn't want to appear in frame right now, which is
Mhm.
quite understandable. But yeah, I'm actually at the headquarters of the Crafty Nihilist now. I don't often visit, but I am visiting, which is great.
It's a great honour to have
Ah.
Ben,
Yeah.
Yes.
will you squeeze your balls live on air? For
All right, then I'll have to do it again. I don't like doing it, but it's painful. But here we go. All right, then. Right.
Oh.
Ow! Ow!
Gnomes in cars.
Gnomes in cars.
What's up, gnomes in cars?
Gnomes in cars.
Gnomes in cars.
Gnomes in cars. Gnomes in cars.
You can wear it the whole live stream if you want.
All right. Do you think it suits me, ladies and gents? Gnomes in cars. Gnomes in cars. Gnomes in cars. This is the Christmas gnome hat, yeah, and Mark's got his Merry Christmas hat on.
Crafty Nihilist Christmas special.
Because it is coming up to Christmas, isn't it? Yeah, it's coming up to Christmas.
It is.
We're off. And we've just a little while to go, isn't it?
Yeah. And we just been to Avery, which was lovely for full moon. Couldn't see much of the moon because it was very cloudy, but there was a break in the clouds, so we did get a glimpse of the moon. But it was just amazing being around the stones as always with the energies and that, and great to meet up with some wonderful friends.
That's right. We met up. There was about half a dozen of us or more around the table, and Liz booked it ages ago, and we arranged to do this. Had this Christmas dinner at Avebury, and there was all four of us were there, and some more people, and it was just really nice. We had a lovely meal. It was great to meet everyone and have a Christmas get together. That's what Christmas is for, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
but yesterday you were at Bases.
I was, yes. It's been quite an active weekend for me because I went to the Bases project. Some of you watching this may well actually be there. We have currently just 3 people watching, but hopefully that will increase. I went to the Bases project, which is really, really good. Miles Johnston of the Bases project does a regular conferences, at least 2 a year he does, and they are superb. And it's not just the conference itself, it's the community that's built up around it, the attendees who have become like family to me, and I get to meet them, and which I don't normally see them except online, so it's really, really good.
I mean, as we've often said, probably the thing above everything else of going to conferences is the social aspect of meeting like-minded people and being able to gather together and not feel that you're going to be frowned upon or laughed at or criticized, and you can, we can share our experiences and just make a lot of friendships.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. It's in a sense, the speaker's really a kind of an excuse for us just to get together, and this, the conference scene is wonderful. I mean, they vary in scale from like a few people in a room of a pub to massive international events in giant hotels with 1,000 or more attendees. I've been to both types, and they're both good in their own way, and which is really lovely. And the Bases is one of these. I mean, it's not a massive one. There's a single auditorium. Miles does all this stuff himself, and he works really, really hard. And we got a comment. Hi, everyone from Liz herself.
Liz, all the way over the other side of the table.
It is obvious, yeah. And we've got 8 people. Thank you. Oh, we've got now Margaret. Hello, Margaret. Good evening, Margaret. Thanks for joining us. You didn't expect to see me here, did you?
Show Margaret your moving thing.
Ah, yes, gnomes in
Squeeze
cars.
your balls
Gnomes
for
in
Margaret.
cars. Gnomes in cars. Oh, squeezing my balls. Ow, 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 it's painful.
And don't forget, we got Secret Sally.
DJ
Sally.
B2. Hello, DJ B2.
DJ, well, hey.
DJ, you don't see me on this channel. You do watch me, but you don't often see me on this channel, do you? Yeah.
You make the odd guest appearance, but
we got Sally here too, who's opposite. Yeah.
Secret Sally.
Hello, Rachel Higgin.
Oh, Rachel.
Oh, Rachel. Hello, Rachel.
How do you do, Rachel?
Rachel's
Welcome. Yeah, it's a lovely event. I mean, I got turned up. I had a stall to sell my books, and it was like really, and I had like a and I did sell one book, which is all right.
It's better than none. Well, yeah.
That's the thing. I think most people have got it already.
Everybody who goes to bases has got your book.
Well, what the person I sold it to did buy the first one. That was Duncan
We got
Greenkeeper.
like that.
Oh, you got all three. You got all three, yeah. But he's got the first one, but he just wanted to read the next one, and I said, yeah, sure. And I sold him the next one, and then after that, I hope he'll buy the third one. So yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, and the speakers were really good. I mean, they're very interesting. Hey, Margaret, how you doing? Serious guys. Yeah, and
it's squeezing the balls.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, we were. I think it's really cool. It's a good thing, though, isn't it? You know, you can just go like that, and it
keeps your ball dead warm.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting a bit hot now. Actually, I might take my jumper off in a minute.
Take the hat off if you're overheating. I can get a bit.
I'm all right for now. I'm all right for now. Thanks. Yeah, but anyway, there was the speakers. There were originally going to be 6 speakers. We ended up with 4, but it doesn't matter because they had a bit longer to do their talk. Martin Colburn talked about a lot of things. Hello, Whisperoon. Hello.
Oh, there's Pete.
Oh, we have this gentleman. Does he mind us saying?
Yeah, no,
Pete. Yeah, Pete. This is a chap we actually met. He was there.
Yeah,
he's a real person. He exists. Hello,
Mab.
Mab. Hello, Mab.
Mab's a friend of mine. I know Mab, but we won't go about his real name.
Oh, right.
But good to see you, Mab.
He is. Yeah, nice one, Mab. Yeah, nice to see you. Hope the hotel's all right, Whisperoon. Hope it's all right. Because you got a good Wi-Fi there.
No, they say good wife.
Maybe that's even better.
You got a good wife there, isn't that?
Even better.
Travel lodge in Sweden.
No wonder he's got a great wife.
But one of the speakers, Martin Colburn. Now he talks about the free energy cover-up. He actually did a talk.
Here.
Hello, Connor.
From upstairs.
Connor's he's in the Crafty Knowledge headquarters. He's just upstairs, but yeah, Connor's here. His talk was called "The Glass Ceiling of Forbidden Science," which is a very intriguing title. And unfortunately, I only saw half of it because I turned up late. That was because the person who was giving me a lift was late, so there's not much I could do about that.
Me?
No, it was someone else. It wasn't you. Someone else gave me a lift. But we got. Oh, hello. Oh, it's Marie. Hello, Marie.
Hey,
how you doing? Hey, Jude, you didn't expect to see me on this channel, did you? Yeah, I'm usually in there in the chat box.
Show her your ears.
She likes your headwear. Look at
There
that.
we go. Here's another. Every time someone turns up, I'll show them gnomes in cars. Gnomes in
Gnomes in
cars.
cars.
Gnomes in cars.
We got some gnomes.
In cars.
In cars.
In cars. We got some gnomes in cars. Honestly, I should go and get the music for the gnomes.
Oh yeah.
And the little thing. Have you shown the little?
The little thing, the Christmas thing.
We were in Glastonbury, and there was like it looked like a pop-up shop. It was sort of in between other shops, just on the corner there. And we went in, and there's some nice postcards of Glastonbury views.
Hello, Chloe. Gnomes in cars. Gnomes in cars.
Hi, Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
And then we saw and then we saw. I spied there was gnomes in cars. They had this little shop, had images of gnomes in cars, which Liz is going to reveal any moment, but unfortunately not quite timed yet.
Gnomes in cars. Oh, here it is. It's
Gnomes in cars. We got some
Gnomes.
gnomes
in cars. Cars.
Gnomes
in cars. Gnomes in cars.
in cars.
Gnomes in cars. Gnomes in cars.
That's what we found.
Yeah, how about that?
Shop there.
In cars.
They exist. Look, look.
Oh
wow! Can you believe that? That must be inspired by that event in that park. You know, by the kids in the park.
That's
saw
right.
the gnomes in the car. Cars. Gnomes in cars.
Why am I doing this? I'm absolutely
That's the music for the quiz. Yeah.
Right. And you were just about to reveal a very serious talk.
That's
about
right.
Science.
As Miles would say, this is serious now, all right? This is serious. No messing about. No messing about. But it's called the Glass Ceiling of Forbidden Science. Now, most of his stuff I knew, but I did learn some stuff because he talks about, this is one of my, what happened there? Oh, we went dark for a moment. Oh, wow. No, in cars. This is going to be the latest hit in Ibiza and Goa, I swear. Mark Devlin will be playing this in his next concert.
That's right.
But really, it's like, I a lot of this stuff I knew, but because it's one of my favourite subjects. But I did learn quite a lot about this because he talks about Nikola Tesla. Now, this may surprise you if you're not aware, but when Nikola Tesla died, the FBI and the government came and confiscated everything he had from his hotel room. He was virtually penniless when he died, and he was living in this cheap hotel in New York. And even before the undertakers were allowed in to take the body away, they seized all his papers, all his books, all his prototypes, everything he had. And these things remain classified to this day. Not only that, I mean, some of the results of the experiments he did at Colorado Springs in 1898 were also classified. I mean, this stuff goes back a long way. It predates it's not just about replacing oil here. It's about it predates the day of mass use of oil. But the person who ran this was a guy called Professor John Trump, who was a he was a scientist, a physicist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Now, he's called Trump. If you ask him, is he any relation? Yes. He's Donald Trump's uncle. I think there may be an interesting connection there. And he also mentions a guy called John Keeley. You've got to go back much further here. You have to go back almost a century to the 1840s and 50s. John Keeley was a perpetual motion and free energy inventor and inspired an entire movement of. I mean, I think he was American, and the United States has a great tradition in this. Wilbur and Orville Wright, Thomas Edison. These people are all just not these people without any proper educational scientific training, but would invent things as amateurs in their garden sheds. This is a great American tradition. And to this day, there's a community of these people trying to build perpetual motion and free energy devices. There used to be something called KeelyNet. This was actually one of the world's first websites. I think it started in the early 90s when the World Wide Web was first hooked up. And but it's now down. It's down, unfortunately. But one thing that Keeley did have, he had something called the disintegrator, which was basically using electrical signals, creating interference patterns with electrical signals. This is a long time ago. This is in the 1850s when this kind of technology, this science, this knowledge was only just being acknowledged in laboratory experiments. And it was called a disintegrator because he found that it's in the presence of certain interference effects. There would be, for example, the material would dissolve into dust and things like that, into tiny fragments. Now, that reminds me very much of John Hutchison and the Hutchison effect. I do wonder if Hutchison actually... I feel crazy talking about serious things wearing this. Hello, Whisperer. John Keely's etheric sound motor is fascinating. Yeah, definitely. That's true, Peter. Yeah. And... the Hutchison effect, if you read Dr. Judy Wood's Where Did the Towers Go, or watch Andrew Johnson doing his talks, I think she believes, and I think she's right, that this was used to destroy the World Trade Center on December 11, 2001.
Do you listen to Math's Easy Solution?
Yes,
because
I do.
He does a lot of stuff with that as well, doesn't he?
It was Andrew who got me onto that, actually. As you know, I'm not on good terms with Andrew personally, but I haven't changed my mind about any of the factual elements he talks about. And Matt Eden he does these very long live streams where he brings these things up. And so now this is really interesting because he then went on to Wilhelm Reich and orgone energy. I think you've covered this, Mark. You did a talk about this.
Well, I've brought it in.
Yeah, you mentioned it stuff, on one of your little lectures. Which are good. Yeah, Mark, as you know, he does these long monologues like I do.
Yeah,
we're basically we are the Neil Olivers of live streaming.
We are very, very similar to Neil Oliver, as you can see. But absolutely.
He discovered what he called orgone energy, and so this is again, there's some new information here. I mean, Martin Colburn repeats a lot of information I'm already familiar with, but he'd also added, for example, that firstly, Wilhelm Reich believed in reincarnation. I didn't know that. Also. There's distinct evidence to suggest that Kundalini energy, which is something that's been known about in India for several thousand years, was essentially rediscovered in the same way that John Hutchison rediscovered Keely's disintegrator array. The orgone energy was the Western rediscovery of Kundalini energy. Hello, Nina. Yeah. Hello, Nina. How are you? Are you the Nina we saw earlier? Yeah. Hi. Good of you to join us.
We had a Kundalini experience with the Stones tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, just just tying in the fact that we're in Avebury today, and when you think, these thousands of years ago, I'm sure what these megalithic sites were all about was basically this extremely early version.
Thanks, Margaret.
Of what you're talking about, all these ways of channeling energy, focusing energy, and I think that's what they were doing with these stones and the stone circles, and it's just a very early version of what's these experiments now.
Yeah, it can be. It's basically an energy produced by the human body, and it's a spirit. It's described as a serpent rising up your spine from your lower chakras to your higher chakras. It's very like what Reich did with orgone. As you know, it's been known for thousands of years that it can be generated through meditation, through controlled sexual experiences like the tantra, things like that. And Reich was like this. Reich was smeared. He was treated like dirt by the authorities, which is why he was right. He died in prison in 1958, a broken man. And as with Tesla, all his material was seized by the government. Now, if you're a fan of Kate Bush, there's a song she wrote about it called Cloud Busting, and the video that goes with it with Donald Sutherland playing Reich. Now, it's very unusual actually for a big Hollywood actor to star in a rock video, but he did. And it's a dramatization of what happened to Wilhelm Reich through the eyes of his son, Peter Reich, who wrote a book, and Kate plays Peter in the video. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
hello, Johnny Fettler.
Hello, Johnny Fettler. Just as a side, Patti Smith's song Birdland as well. That's it, sort of improvised thing, but that takes as its taking off point what happened to Wilhelm Reich and his son as well in similar ways.
I've not heard that one. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one Reich was smeared in many sorts of ways. For example, he was accused of running a brothel or something like that because he used to observe people having sex in his laboratory early in his career. Now, he was I'm sure there's lots of people who do that as an excuse, but in his case, it was purely scientific. I want to say hello to 11 people watching. That's great. 12 now. Oh, great. We've got right. Yeah. Nina. Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, Nina and everyone else, you were listening to Kate Bush. Kate Bush is like, she's very much on our side and things. She used to be a member of a UFO group in Berkshire. What's thinking about Kate Bush is that I saw that video and I remember it's one of my clearest childhood memories. As I've explained many times, I have lacunae in my early life, entire years of my life that I can't remember at all, especially in my teens and 20s. One thing I remember is watching the cloud busting video. I must have been, I don't know how old I was, but I went in to watch a film. I know the film was Superman 2 as well. And in those days, they used to play music videos sometimes before the main feature, and they played this. And I'd never heard of Wilhelm Reich. I hadn't a clue who he was or what was going on. But I had a massive emotional reaction in a way that I only did when I was a young child to that particular, to watching it. And it haunted me. I've never forgotten watching that for the first time.
Now, the weird thing is, I don't know if Big Mike can hear me, but I've been re-watching Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
And the music that gets Max out of the Upside Down so that she doesn't get completely stuck in the Upside Down is Kate Bush running up that hill.
Yeah.
And it's all about 80s and about frequencies and sound. And it's of all the 80s bands, it's Kate Bush that helps her get out of the
How about that? Yeah.
being stuck in the Upside Down.
That's I've only just started series 2, so I haven't got back to that bit yet. But it's a very, very good series. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Now, so you want to add something?
No.
I was going to say that Reich's also got into trouble for something that we will get into trouble for if I say it. It refers to a certain disease, not one that's transmittable, but one that a lot of people suffer from that is potentially fatal, and how it can be cured. Now,
the C word.
Yeah, you can't, not the COVID, another one, but now you can't use that. Doctors never use that word. Yeah, that doctors use the word remission whenever you are treated and get over that disease. They never use the word cure. They say you're in remission.
Right. Yeah.
Now, Reich got into trouble because he used his orgone accumulators to treat people's C. Right, and Now, another person. Do you want to add anything before I move?
No,
on?
I think you.
So I don't want to monopolise this.
You please do monopolise.
We're all really awake.
No, I just ignore. No, but I mean, yeah.
Feel free to interject anytime.
All right.
Another person. Then he moved on to Victor Schauberger. Now, this is another individual who lived in Austria, and he was a forester. He wasn't a scientist, but he discovered something amazing, which is the over unity energy effects can be generated through very, very simple systems. You don't need some kind of LHC CERN thing. He found out that water itself, you could just simply channeling water into certain patterns in certain circumstances, can release free energy effects from that water. And indeed, nature uses it. And I know because I've been to a place called Bibury. If you've not been to Bibury, it's a lovely place. And even I noticed this when I was a kid. If you just check in the comments. All right. Rhymes with answer. Yeah, it does. If you look, you can see the water's very clear and it's a shallow river, and you can see fish. And they seem to move. They seem to be able to,
especially salmon.
Yeah, the fish, salmon, trout, things like that. They tend to be able to keep their position in water or move in water. They very often move static relative to the riverbed and the riverbank, with the river water flowing around them. They seem to be able to do it without using their fins very much. And this interested Schauberger. He said, how do they do that? Because you'd think they'd have to flap their fins. It's like if we're running on a treadmill, it's the equivalent of us running on a treadmill. We have to keep running. Now, they didn't. Now, he did some experiments. So, for example, he got someone to boil up a massive barrel full of boiling water, and he poured it into the river upstream from the trout. And as soon as this warm, it didn't boil the river, but it warmed the river water up by a few degrees. And as soon as this hit the trout, they started flapping their fins. They lost control, and they started flapping their fins desperately to keep in control. And then when that bolus of hot water passed downstream and the cold water returned, they returned to normal. So he worked out that when water is at a certain temperature, and it appears that they can channel this through their gills, and it releases this free energy effect that propels them. Very interesting. Now, he was when Hitler invaded Austria. They were so interested in work that they offered him a job. When I say offered him a job, they didn't say, do you want to come and work for us? They said, you have to work for us, or we'll hang you.
Yeah, offer you can't refuse.
So he agreed, believe it or not. Yeah, I mean, he had no choice. But it is believed that some of this technology went into the famous Nazi flying saucers, which many authors, Joseph Farrell, many others have written about.
That's interesting. I mean, again, just talking about the ancient sites, and as I said before, so many of them are around water.
Well, like where we've just been.
Yeah, exactly.
Aquifers.
Yeah, over aquifers or by running water, by water courses, like rivers or whatever. So yeah, and definitely, I think they're channeling the energy with the water and connecting with that again. So I think all these things are thousands of years old, and they're and the people we're talking about are tapping into those things again. Relearning
these things have been forgotten. And the most obvious example is, of course, one of the world's greatest rivers, which is near one of the world's greatest sites, which is the Nile.
Right.
That's the most obvious.
Give her a big mic.
Yeah.
Give her a big mic.
She's coming in.
Oh, right.
Go on then.
Put a big mic there.
All I was thinking is, I think there's those flow form water things. Have you seen
Flow
those?
form.
Come from Victor Schauberger.
Oh yes, the trout turbine and
but
the log flume.
There's also sort of about 30 years ago, whenever it was, there was a trend to get these lovely flow form waterfalls that people with money could buy and put in their gardens. And it's in the Chalice Gardens.
Yeah.
Oh,
have you
right.
seen it?
Yes.
It goes into the
certain patterns.
I know I'm waving my arms around, nobody can see, but it's like
Yeah.
sort of a series almost of love hearts that are coming
I've got
down.
pictures of that
Thanks,
somewhere.
Margaret.
And also,
That's
it
the
does
first
different
one.
frequencies, doesn't
Dolphins
it?
do the same.
Yeah.
Hold
Right.
on, I think I've got a picture of that
Peter says
somewhere.
dolphins do that too.
Called flow forms. And
That's interesting because.
sure that's coming out of the word.
Thanks, Sally.
Yeah.
So Peter says that dolphins do the same thing. It's interesting because dolphins don't have gills; they're not fish. But thanks, Sally. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, water is, well, it's the source of life. We know that, but yeah, just there's so much more to it. I think that conductor of energy in some or forms of energy and that sort of thing.
Water is a very unusual substance because it's one of the few substances that actually loses volume as it freezes. When it becomes a solid, it actually decreases in volume. This is about 11% more, which is why ice floats on water rather than sinking.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Sorry to keep going back to Avebury, but I suppose that's where we've just been. So it's but I mean, I would
marshes and Glastonbury, is up the Isle of Avalon. It's on the marshes.
Yeah. And Silbury Hill, which I was saying before, it seems to me like a smaller version of Glastonbury Tor, which again I think was man-made for a similar purpose, maybe as I think it's very much like a pyramid type thing, and but again they were surrounded by water.
That's right. The Isle of Avalon, it was.
Yeah, and I was fascinated. I didn't realise that the springs around there at Avebury, Silbury Hill, are a source of what becomes the Thames, and the sacred nature of that, and how the Thames has been.
It's actually on the watershed, isn't it? Right. So Avebury's on the watershed. Right. So you've got the waters around Silbury Hill that go into the Kennet and go to
the Kennet,
yeah, and then if you go to the springs at Alton Barnes.
All right. And these are tributaries for the River Thames.
No, the springs at Alton Barnes. So if you were to walk south, they're it's magical chalk spring there, and you could follow the water and it would take you past Stonehenge and down to the south coast. And then if there's the spring at Mother Anthony's Well, which is below Oliver's Castle. So Oliver's Castle, if you were to walk out to Oliver's Castle, there's a spring at the bottom of that called Mother Anthony's Well. And if you were to follow the water from there, that would lead you to this Bristol Avon and then out to there. And then if you were to go to, I can't remember what it's called, but head north, and of course you're going to catch up the water to go to the upper reaches of the Thames as well. Right, so you could go upstream to Cirencester, which would be a quick hop then, and back into the sort of Avon 7.
So I know you did a lot of research. So you think in the past that's of how also in terms of communication for how people got about and.
Very much so, yeah, very much so, because there was a lot of the sacred sites were built at the top of sort of valleys where you'd have had a spring, and so everybody would have known their spring and travelling, and you can follow the water without any maps. You don't need sat nav, you just follow the valley. You know, certain crossing places often were holy places with tributaries, so you could follow. You know, I mean, how simple is that to know that you go to, say, from Avebury, the spring at Alton Barnes, just follow the water and you hit the south coast.
Yeah.
That's so simple, isn't it? Whether it's foggy, whether it's rainy, whether it's good weather.
So now when we say go with the flow,
go with the flow.
They used to literally go with the flow. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah.
Peter says that Thames equals Isis. And that's interesting because that's what we call it in Oxford.
Yeah.
We don't call it the Thames. We call it the Isis when it's.
Oh, Mark said, "Who is this interesting lady?"
Secret
Sally.
Secret Sally. Yeah.
Secret Sally.
Let's hope that
we got to keep the mic to all Secret Sally. I ain't saying nothing. It's you two.
It's slightly shy, Secret Sally.
No,
she's getting closer to the
Sally.
screen. She's getting closer to the screen.
That's it. It's really cool. And now, what's interesting with coming back to the Nazi flying saucers was in World War II, pilots would see objects which they call Foo Fighters, which was kind of it became like the first term for UFO. This is at a time when it's possible that Hitler's Germany was actually developing some of this technology from Schauberger and also from other people, and possibly from extraterrestrial crash retrievals in secret. Now, you may say, well, why it didn't stay secret? Because, of course, they were defeated in the war. Germany was overrun, and there was a devastation, actually, across Germany. And the victorious Allies then divided the country up and plundered it for its spoils. Now, some of that, of course, was the brain boxes of the Third Reich. It's people like Werner von Braun, Hermann Oberth, who very famously was sent to the United States to work on the space program. And indeed, these people who developed the V2 and V1 missiles, which devastated, especially my own country, Britain, were then developed these same designs into rockets that took astronauts into space, which is very interesting. And then, but there are others. So people like SS General Hans Kammler. Now he disappeared, supposedly at the end of the war, but there's reason to believe that he actually went to the United States and lived under a fake identity, working on anti-gravity and free energy propulsion. The Foo Fighters themselves may have been secret aircraft. We don't know. They may have been extraterrestrial as well, or maybe it was a mixture of them both. Funnily enough, they were also being seen by crews of other, Germans saw them, and Japanese and other aviators saw these things in World War II. So it probably wasn't all secret technology. But at the same time, we then had the Roswell incident of 1947. Kenneth Arnold. This was literally just after. Funnily enough, it was just after we started exploding atomic bombs. There was basically a global UFO flap that has persisted to this day. So yeah.
Do you know anything about Roswell, Ben?
Oh, let me see now. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Let's talk about opening a can of worms there. Yeah, but it's interesting that we suddenly started having more contact with extraterrestrials when their interest in our nuclear weapons seems to have been, and it still is to this day. We're even seeing it in the current era with the drones, the so-called drones, which I'll come back to in more detail later.
I mean, it's an aside. Sorry, it's maybe a bit of it, but I mean, I was struck when I was reading Robert Temple's book about plasma, and it just sort of mentioned there about after the war, the Americans, the Russians, they all had to go. They exploding nuclear bombs, atomic bombs in the stratosphere.
Yeah, they did.
Just see what happened, and it's like, how is
this is insane? It was reckless.
I mean, yeah. I mean, who knows what untold damage they did on, and now they're talking, oh yeah, you got to be safe about the environment, and we've got to recycle our tins or whatever, but they're exploding.
Not the couch farting.
Yeah. But exploding atomic bombs in the stratosphere, and it's like, but I guess the reason that sort of struck me, I suppose, is just maybe the connection with space, and I don't know, maybe there was something in why they were doing that, decided to explode atomic bombs in the stratosphere, or and the effect maybe it had on.
Well, it could be. I mean, some people said, well, this uptick in our the interest we gathered from across the universe. I mean, UFOs didn't start then, contrary to popular belief. They've always been a product, but the level of essentially the modern UFO era began then because of this increased interest and the fact that the media got hold of it and they started making movies about them and things like this. But I find it extraordinarily interesting that this connection between UFOs and our nuclear weapons, and it's very obvious. This is one of the few things we can glean from their behavior. And it could be that Jim Mars puts it very pithily. He said, oh my God, they said, oh my God, the kids have found the matches. In other words, we have invented a form of technology, which means we're now a threat to the rest of the universe. And indeed, Dr. Bob Jacobs, who describes how a missile was shot down by one of these things, this was actually part of a test because they had some ridiculous plan to detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon. It was crazy. They even thought that it might leave a crater, which they could name it after somebody. These guys were crazy. Margaret says only the shite heads are allowed to blow shit up, but who cow parts will kill us. Yes, cow farts. I think you mean cow farts will kill us. It's crazy, isn't it? It's nuts. I mean, they were blowing up bombs in the stratosphere, as Mark was saying. God knows what effect they had on the atmosphere and the environment.
Yeah,
I know.
Who do they think they are?
I know. It is really.
But trust the science. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're doing experiments.
Scientists have got us in this bloody.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, the same people then say, "Oh no, we know what's best for you." So,
smart but not wise.
That's it. Wisdom. Yeah, David Icke makes that point. Yeah, cleverness without wisdom. They're stupid and unwise. But And he mentions things such as, now there's something, he mentioned something I didn't know about, which is the ONL group. I didn't know what this is, but apparently it's a secret organization here in Britain that has a factory where they were building these things. And they work with John Searle. John Searle is interesting because John Searle invented a free energy anti-gravity propulsion craft. He was working in a factory, just I think making ball bearings or something. And he discovered how you could again release some energy from something. I met John Searle actually. He's a very old, intense guy. He's pretty much deaf when I saw him. He's always had bad hearing, but he'd gone pretty much deaf when I met him. But he's very intense and he talks like non-stop for ages and ages and ages. And he did develop this craft, and it turns out that he might have had a deal with the theory is that he had a deal with Freddie Laker. Freddie Laker was a pilot in World War II who went on to found an airline called Laker Airways. It's like one of the first budget airlines. And in the 80s, it collapsed and missed a lot of publicity. And apparently this was similar to Tesla. It was very, very similar to when Tesla set out this deal with Henry Ford in the beginning of the 20th century with mass-produced cars, because Ford had two lines, one petrol engine and the other electric, and Tesla was going to do a deal to keep the electric one going and shut down the petrol one, and saying, well, I can provide as much electricity as anyone needs to drive these vehicles. And then JP Morgan and Rockefeller and all the usual suspects got involved and said, no, you get rid of Tesla. We're going to have petrol engine cars, which we still do to this day. This is very similar. They destroyed Freddie Laker because he and John Searle were going to create the world's first flying saucer airline. This Laker Air was going to have like anti-gravity saucers. Searle went to jail, I remember, and it was like, funny enough, it's like, I mean, he was lucky to end up in jail, Mark and Sally, because almost everybody who gets involved in this kind of technology usually ends up dead. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
I'll give it the number of examples. Stanley Mayer poisoned in a restaurant. Eugene Mallow fell off a moving train. The door happened to be unlocked and he leaned on it and fell off. Brewster Palmer killed shot dead in a mugging when nothing was stolen from him. I could go on. It seems it's a very dangerous thing to invent free energy technology, really is. And John Searle was put in jail. Yeah. Where is it now? Right. Remy Cornwall. I never heard of this guy, Remy Cornwall, but he discovered it's a heat exchange system with water that actually was over unity. And this apparently breaks the second law of thermodynamics, but it's not just like incredulity or a failure of imagination that why scientists turn against this. It is because they are suppressed by there's decisions made high at a political level, and then various scientists who, of course, are often not rational. They have a desire for success. They have rent to pay like the rest of us, and they then dissemble this fear and this necessity into, I've worked it out and it's not true. I mean, of course, another perfect example is cold fusion. The associate is behind this. He hasn't got his mask on today. Hello, Connor.
Oh shit! I've got the mask.
He doesn't know nobody knows.
Good job, it's not live.
So this is. I mean, Martin, he had a thing. He says, there's other things above the glass ceiling of forbidden science to do with paranormal and stuff like that as well. But this is the one he focused on in this talk. And what it means is basically the deep state, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, they need control of energy in order to control us. If Tesla and these other geniuses had their way, we'd be living in a very different world now. We live in a world in which the Illuminati rule would be impossible, because we would be essentially freed from the necessities of paying and through the nose for inefficient, exhaustible, damaging energy. I mean, the environmental destruction and things like that, and poverty is another issue, because we wouldn't see what we do today in the world if we had free energy. We wouldn't have poverty. Everyone could live a productive life in plenty.
Would it be overly crazy, do you think, though? Like, because everybody would get a car and everybody would be going.
But would they get
everywhere.
a car? Would it be a car though?
It was slightly something that could fly. You wouldn't need roads for it.
Yeah, would it be a complete?
But it's a good point you're making. I mean,
you know, if everybody had that, would it just be like real chaos out there?
This is another reason why I think some of these scientists are in on this conspiracy, because they think, well, we can't give these monkeys free energy because they'll just turn them into.
That was a funny meme.
That's a quote, actually.
It was a funny meme of these dinosaurs coming back in a spaceship, as if they just bucked off in a spaceship, and they're coming back to Earth, and they're like, "Oh, I hope the monkeys haven't touched anything." Just reminded me of that.
It was actually Eric Pianka who said this, the famous, the famous kind of population reductionist. He actually said he actually used the word monkeys to describe humans, even though he's one himself. He said if we give them free energy, they'll just cut the tops off mountains, and they'll just do more damage than they ever would now. Their population will increase to 100 million before you know it, and that'll be it. So. But I don't believe that would happen. I believe we would find a natural, certainly with when you put it into context of other changes that will come about with society, the end of Illuminati rule, spiritual awakening, things like that, we would find some kind of natural balance with society.
Yeah,
it would eliminate poverty. It would eliminate.
I don't think we can. I think we would really struggle to imagine the society, to be honest. And I think
we would. I do.
Maybe we wouldn't need to travel as much naturally because we'd be, I don't know, maybe trying to find out the greater truths of whatever that is, and maybe we wouldn't need to go out and about to try and find happiness or a relief from work. Maybe we'd be just quite happy reading bits on alchemy or learning, you know what I mean? So maybe we wouldn't need all this extra, I need to go on a plane to find my happy place, because you'd be like, I don't know. I don't think we can imagine it. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, China Miéville, who's a fiction author, he's a Marxist. I don't agree with his view, but he refused to describe a post-revolutionary world in any of his literature because he said it was impossible from our perspective now within this system. And I think that even though I don't share his political views, I can sign it. There's a kind of parallel with my own vision of this world, which you've just described perfectly, Liz. You see, Pianka says things like, "Well, the population will soar to 100 billion before you know it, and they'll just destroy all the natural world for agriculture." No. But look, if we had, for example, ormus, terra preta, and these fertilizers like this, which we're not allowed now, and if we free energy, we wouldn't need to suck all the fresh water out of rivers. We could desalinate seawater. Exactly. There's a virtually infinite supply of fresh water available in the sea, which you can't use right now because we don't have the money to turn it into usable water.
It also makes itself from underneath.
We need money and energy, money, things like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a H3O that comes up through the portal under the duck pond in Devizes, allegedly. There's all kinds of solutions we could do. Yeah. To produce food.
It's always Devizes.
We could produce food. Yeah. We could.
We
could get out into space. We could. Traveling to other planets with this technology. The secret space program would no longer be secret, and we could people like Freddie Laker and John Searle could build their sources that would take us wherever we wanted to go. It'd be like driving a car to another city. So, hello, Johnny Fetley.
But we might still be creating sort of mountains of crap, more so. So, sort of something. If the energy's free, if the energy's free,
but
there will be a lot of people out there.
I don't think we'd be as materialistic.
Yeah,
and also we could recycle. The energy would allow us allow us to recycle more than we do now. Because recycling is also limited by energy, because it takes energy to pulp paper, to melt down plastic and things like this. But we wouldn't. It would be much more easy now. It's all right. If I put the mic here, just let me know if you can't hear anyone here, because we're going to have to keep musing.
If we can't hear,
if you can't hear Liz,
you can't see Secret Sally or me.
Yeah. Well, you can hear Liz. You could hear Liz from across the road. I mean, let's face it. But you can hear Sally or not. If you can't hear her voice, let me know.
Punch him or not? With his little hat on.
I'm too cute to punch.
No,
I'm not. All right.
But it's an interesting thought experiment, isn't it? So why do I think that we would be less materialistic and wouldn't want all of this shit? Well, because I'm hoping
you'd want that from the whole population, though, wouldn't you? Because there'll always be, the people on the make or whatever. But how do we step away from that?
Well, that's the thing. If there is free energy, then there isn't people on the make, because there isn't any money to be made from it. So if people have enough that they need, then there isn't the striving, there isn't the need to.
Sounds like communism to me, Mark.
Yeah, but it's just.
But there's natural sort of one-upmanship, or just and a lack of sort of something in ourselves with a lot of people that drives that sort of buying, needing another.
Well, it's not to say that free energy makes all those things go away, but
to be honest, I don't know what the answer is. They don't necessarily go away. We're still people. We're still humans. We have failures. We'll get into conflicts at a certain point. We may even get into wars at certain points, but we won't be. We will be seeing the world differently. I think we've learned from the experience of Illuminati rule, and apart from that, though, I do think it's not possible to give you a complete answer to that.
No,
but I do believe what we will have is an improvement on what we have now, and this is really the only way out. I mean, for example, like if we can desalinate seawater for no cost, we can, as in my book Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, available all good bookshops now, price £10.
And if it's not there, it's not a good bookshop.
Exactly. Yes. She knows my lines, and it's you could actually have farms in deserts because you could like. In the same way that the River Nile used to flood, allowing the ancient Egyptians to have agriculture, which gave them the ability to soar their population and build the pyramids, we could do the same with free energy, desalinating seawater. We could have farms. You could turn the deserts into farmland. The actual, the natural world could reclaim what was taken from it by mass industrialized agriculture. Yeah. But apart from that, I mean, I don't have a complete answer, because it could be that the means by which we free ourselves from energy slavery, which the Illuminati have imposed on us, could also, like as with nuclear technology, could also provide the means to destroy ourselves. In fact, if you watch Ashton Forbes talks about this, the ability to disintegrate matter, and what happened on 9/11. The free energy that was used by the Hutchison effect, which is a free energy system, was used to destroy two of the world's biggest buildings with the ease of blowing away a piece of cigarette ash, which is what it looked like.
I also think, I don't know if this is a thing, I think we might struggle to put down our kind of little me personas, and we would still find it difficult to step into a new paradigm and realise that we don't have to be subservient. So I think there still would be a hierarchy, and not just because people are wankers and want to be on top, but because people are still, we've got thousands of years of brainwashing that your place. So I think we would struggle to harness this and make it work for us, because we've still got that mentality. Yeah,
that's true. We're still ourselves. We still have a biological nature which can't be changed. This we'd have to deal with. As we do now, we try best to.
It would take a long time to shake the shackles off.
Yeah, I don't go along with this world. People who say that's just human nature, mate. I mean, a lot of those are just making excuses. Yeah. They're just making excuses so they don't have to do anything. They can just say, "Well, there's nothing we can do about it," so that it's human nature. No, it's true. We do have a nature. We have a natural aggressive side to us. This is why sport is so important, actually, for people, especially men. We need to compete with each other. We need that, otherwise we'll probably end up killing each other. We literally would. So that, I mean, there's societies in this world that never had fought wars. For example, near Göbekli Tepe, there's the Çatalhöyük culture. Right. They didn't actually fight wars with other tribes because there was no need to, but they did play very violent sports. Because I think certainly the men of the tribe needed some kind of outlet for that natural aggression and the desire to compete. Right. And I don't think that will change. Not that I'm saying we all take up the old form of lacrosse where we all kill each other, but
unless they put something in the water, of course.
So then we'd have a new Illuminati to turn us into this is a problem because I mean, and also there will be there'll be a transitional period between the immediate post-Illuminati world. I think could be, as I describe in my books, my Roswell trilogy.
Have you written some books?
Apparently, yes. My Roswell trilogy. They are, £10 each, £30. You can read all three. They are. I described this in my Roswell trilogy that the immediate post-Illuminati world could be very, very turbulent indeed. We're like drug addicts recovering. Yeah. And there's no rehab clinics for us to check into. We have to do cold turkey. It's going to be I believe we can come through it. I believe we have the ability to come through this turbulent period and create a better post-Illuminati world. But it is, it's not going to be easy. No one ever said this would be easy.
And what, Ben, if I'm going to go woo? I know you don't mind that.
So, woo away.
If it was human beings that we're dealing with, we could potentially get to this post-Illuminati. I'm not going to say utopia because I don't believe in utopias.
No.
Place. What if we're not dealing with other monkeys?
Like there other beings? You mean extraterrestrials?
I mean something that doesn't know that there would be new rules. You know what I mean? And so wouldn't accept that and has some sort of something we don't to keep itself there.
I'm not sure I understand. Sorry.
Demonology.
I see. Yes. So you're talking about this. This is what you mean by woo?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a huge subject. But yeah, there are influences from other worlds on this one. And
as we know, because we've seen a picture tonight, we think the veil might be thinning. Somebody sent me a picture, and I'm allowed to show it later, of a photo that somebody took of something quite scary in a wood accidentally. And there's so much more of this coming through. There's so many more people seeing weird stuff.
I just had deja vu. It's weird. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I just literally had a deja vu moment. Yeah, it's weird.
Live on air.
Yeah, it's just had a deja vu moment.
So if we're dealing with flesh and blood, we can be victorious if we put our shackles down. But if we're not dealing with that, and we probably don't think we are, I don't know if that's aliens or something from a different, what.
Hi, Lily.
They're not going to agree with, yes, you won. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't really know what we'll do.
There needs to be a
step up away from it, like
hi Lily. Hello, greetings. Washington. Sorry, sorry, Sally.
So you don't get sucked into things like the fear and the hurt and the gloom, and then you can rise above it, can't you?
So the spiritual battle is still winnable.
Yeah. And
so
it needs to.
You can rise above it, or I know if I get scared or over anxious or something like that, then personally I've got like a couple of mantras and stuff that I can run through as a sort of like.
But will we ever be able to truly win the battle? What were you going to say?
Yes. No, I mean, but I'm developing from that. I suppose it needs to be on a spiritual level, So, like you say, on the physical level, there's things that we might be able to do and we can win there. But you were saying, what about potentially things that are otherworldly or other dimensional? So that's why, we need to win the spiritual battle as well. So you need to be right spiritually. Yeah. So we can't be affected by these.
To reflect it out again, or to keep your own sort of space. And if you can't, like you were saying earlier, you go into really blackness, you will come out of it. We go in the garden and see the sky, make yourself feel better, whatever you do to your sort of.
I know this sounds really nihilistic.
And crafty.
Yeah. But what if this university that we're on is supposed to be a no-win, but not trying to sound nihilistic, but it is just part of a university. It's just the lesson is we can't win it. So do you know what I mean? What if we're not supposed to be here and win? And that's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
It's just what it is.
Yeah. It's. I really don't know.
What is the lesson we're getting from that?
We got lessons all the time. Now,
yeah, it's a good question, and I don't have an answer. I know.
And we all make sort of fuck ups or whatever, don't we? So, and from that may decide not to do the same decision twice or find something that goes wrong.
Anthony Peake says that because
that's why we're here.
Anthony Peake compares the human life cycle, to the film Groundhog Day, which is very good if you've never seen it. The man who lives the same day over and over
Yeah.
again, but he gets better and better and better as he goes through it, and eventually he does move on to the next day, but it's only after he's made many mistakes and suffered many losses.
Maybe this is just like Bill Hicks says, the ride. Maybe this ride is just supposed to be really bumpy.
Yeah.
Well, generally, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it is, isn't it? I mean, there's no
Yes.
doubt about it. I mean,
It's just a bumpy
And
ride.
if you get into sort of astrology, and look at astrology charts, and it does seem like we may have come to a certain degree to go, all right, I need to do all that.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, you mentioned about utopia. I don't believe in
No, I
utopia
don't.
either, because there have been many attempts by people to create utopias on Earth, and they have been throughout history. They've all, so far, every single one has ended in disaster and have created nothing, actually a dystopia.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in utopia. It could be that that's not really the nature of the universe, as you
Exactly.
say, and in which case that leads to bigger questions such as, well, what the hell am I doing here then? If I'm here and I don't like it, why am I here? And I don't know the answer. I don't know.
No,
the answer.
I know. It's
But
interesting.
it's an interesting point. Do you mind if we move on?
Yeah.
Now, do you mind if I skip over Theresa Tannehill? And the
You
reason,
could give it, absolutely.
because the reason is,
Yeah.
there's not a lot to say about her talk. I didn't enjoy her talk. It was literally a list of horrible things happening in the world, natural disasters, and impositions of authoritarian government. And it was just really a litany of that. And she didn't really provide anything to give. And she says that we've got to fight back against it. Well, that's obvious, isn't it? That's obvious. But unlike Sandy Adams, who is a lot more positive, a lot more optimistic, and Theresa Tannehill, who's a colleague of Sandy, just really doesn't seem to have much hope. She seems to be a very, very pessimistic and almost defeatist character. And
but that's in a way chimes in with what we've just been saying.
Yeah.
If it is a nihilistic universe, but yeah.
So yeah, that was
We
a
all
bit...
just got to keep swimming, haven't we?
Yeah.
Keep paddling, keep paddling.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Try and have a
Yeah.
laugh on the way. You know.
I don't believe things are as bad as she paints them. So, for
Yeah.
example, there's many things she could have said in her speech which didn't. You see, I've got a talk called Apocalypse Soon, which some of you will have seen, which is actually it's also about this sort of thing, but it is happy. It's a happy talk. You see, we see things such as the farmers' protest. We see all the things that the government are doing to us, all the horrible things they're trying to do to us, going wrong and backfiring on them. You know, like the C word disease, not the same one that we talked earlier, but the C word, which was an infectious disease, and the medical treatment that was suggested. It was all stopped very suddenly because it wasn't working, and everything else has gone wrong. You know, the politicians they don't want elected have been elected. You know, this nation left the European Union against the desires of the deep state and things like that. So, there's so many, and there's the brilliant truckers protest in Canada, the brilliant farmers protesting all across Europe. People, and you see different countries around the world. Farmers are facing the same problems, even though these are supposedly sovereign states making their own decisions. It's obvious that they are obeying a higher authority which wants to destroy agriculture and industry, and there was such a resistance to it that I can't see this failing. I don't think we can lose this one. But Theresa Tannehill said, well, but you know, and she gives a list of various things without really making the point that, you know, there may be some reason to think we are. Not only are we fighting back, we have to fight back, but we are fighting back and we're succeeding. I don't really want to say much
What was
more
her
about
conclusion then?
that. Everything's awful and we have to resist it, which is pretty obvious.
Yeah,
But she didn't give any examples of how we are resisting it and how it's working.
I think us coming together in this kitchen is the resistance.
Well, yeah, and you've got to make your own bubble joyful, haven't you?
Exactly. I hope everybody heard that. Can everybody hear Sally when she talks? Secret Sally. Because she says
no one's complaining. You are making a good contribution. Peter says we have sovereign power. We just need to identify the unconscious permissions that we're giving. And Margaret says, I call being a flea on a dog's back hurtling through space, and we're along for the ride.
Yeah.
It certainly is. I think it's
Yeah.
Yeah. By all means, Ben. No,
I don't want to add anything more. But the next speaker is Duncan the Grid Keeper.
He bought your book, so he's got a good talking.
Yeah, he bought a copy of my book, so I won't. He's the only person there who bought a copy of my book. Duncan the Grid Keeper.
He's got a good name.
He sounds like it should be a game, shouldn't he? In the virtual reality thing.
He
Duncan
said that
the Grid Keeper.
Like he's interested in the ley lines and energy fields, like Maria Wheatley, like yourself, Sally, and other people. And he said that he and his family in Anglo-Saxon times were actually guardians of the electromagnetic field of the country, the energy grid of the country, the ley lines and things like that. And it was stopped by the Norman conquest, which is interesting. And he's been working closely with John Leonard Wolfson, who was an astrophotographer and a sky watcher, who's very well known for his UFO pictures.
Right.
You may have seen some of them being shared on social media. Strange objects in the sky, which look like stars, but when you zoom in on them, they're not. They appear to be very large spacecraft, possibly the secret space program, or possibly they're extraterrestrial. Funnily enough, though, this sort of contradicts what I've said before. I said that you couldn't keep secrets in astronomy, but according to not just him, but another astronomer called Beatrice Villarroel, a Swedish astronomer, astronomical plates have been stolen from observatories. At least they used to be. Yeah. And not only, she's actually managed to get hold of some of them. Objects that appear in some of them then don't appear in another. So a star will be here one day, it'll be gone the next day, which shouldn't be possible.
Wow.
And not only that, the person who behind it was a guy called Dr. Donald Menzel, who's mentioned in the Majestic 12 document. And he is a massive UFO skeptic. He was kind of like the Mick West of his time. Only he wasn't a nice guy like Mick West. He was a complete dickhead. I said so. That's very suspicious. And I mean, but funny enough, John Leonard Wolfson, he looks like Lou Elizondo. If you look at a picture of him, he looks just like Lou Elizondo. I don't know if it's deliberate, but he's he thinks he may have some of the things he discovered are the old Star Wars platforms from the 1980s when in the Reagan-Gorbachev era. There was a lot of fuss about putting weapons in space. This apparently was never done, but maybe it was secretly. That's the secret weaponization of space. And you've got to ask yourself the question, I mean, was it really there to just defend ourselves from missiles from the Soviet Union and vice versa, because the Soviets were doing the same thing? Or was it what Carol Rosin warned about, the weaponization of space against an extraterrestrial threat that might be used to justify more internationalism and authoritarianism on the Earth's surface?
I suppose that's why I mentioned the atomic bombs in the stratosphere maybe as well. Wondered if maybe there was something behind that as well, some sort of.
Was it a test of? Was it a test for what exactly? What was the point of detonating nuclear weapons that high up?
I mean, they said as if it was like some sort of scientific experiment, which is crazy and frightening yourself.
Their jobs.
But maybe there was something in terms of like a secret space program type thing, and weaponization
it's where
of
the
space.
Funding is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
but maybe they were detonating them for the purpose of trying to keep something out, or
Well, there was this detonation in space they used which created a new Van Allen belt, which is a belt of radiation around the Earth. Was that done for a particular reason?
Well, yeah.
I mean, in 1960, the Soviets detonated the largest nuclear explosion to date, the Emperor bomb, as it was called, 60 megatons, which was so big it broke windows in Finland.
What do you think about the theory that nuclear bombs don't really exist?
They exist.
Nuclear bombs. There's an awful lot of people, especially now, and I think it's probably they don't want it to, but I know Crow 777 has been saying for years, there is an actual thing, and I know Sheep Farm agree with him, that it's just a hoax to keep us in fear, and Hiroshima was just loads of A-bombs, just loads of whatever,
normal bombs.
Normal bombs, loads of bombs, which would have give the same. I don't really understand.
So something happened like Dresden, the effect of
so it's kind of like
Japanese cities.
Well, the conventional bombings of Japan and Germany were so bad that they actually succeeded the destruction caused by the Nagasaki atomic bomb. So it's perfectly capable. It's perfectly capable with conventional weapons to do that kind of damage. Yeah, I mean, I know it's interesting. Crow 777 is interesting because it's actually he may have been drawing on another person, also from New Zealand, called Bruce Cathy. I assume 777 Crow. He's from New Zealand because he has a Kiwi accent.
Crow, he's American.
Is he?
I think he might. Yeah.
I'm thinking of someone else then. So I'm thinking
he's
of someone
who discovered the lunar wave.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of someone else. I'm thinking of someone else who has a New Zealand accent. Don't know their real name.
You're not thinking of the Crow House. Max Egan is Australian.
Yeah, he's Australian. No, this is someone else. This is someone else.
No, the Crow
Max
is American.
No, Max. I know Max Egan. Yeah. You see, I believe they probably exist. Now, what Bruce Cathy said was they would only work under very, very specific circumstances. So he said that Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Trinity only worked because of a certain energy pattern in the grid. And this is very rare, which means it would be impossible to have a global nuclear conflict. You can only have a few handful in certain places at certain times.
Ben? What does that mean?
I don't know the details, but he wrote a long book about it. He wrote a long book.
I thought he written a short book about it.
I never read the book,
With
but
pictures.
it's the Reader's Digest.
Colouring book.
The Reader's Digest to conspiracy theories would be great, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah, but you know, but in a sense, what you said is correct. But what you've said is correct, that the primary purpose of the nuclear arms race was psychological. It was about. I mean, we kept developing these weapons and spending a huge amount of our national budgets on developing weapons. Both sides in the Cold War did, to the point where trillions were spent on these things, but we knew we could never use them.
Yeah.
They were too terrible to use.
And you didn't need that many.
A fraction of them would destroy the Earth. Yeah, a fraction of them would have killed every person on Earth. But we kept building more and more and more of them because the other side would build more and more and more. And we knew we could never use them. I mean, because it would be the end of everyone if we ever did. And this was the mutually assured destruction, this horrible paradoxical situation, which essentially ultimately, because the use of the weapons would have been the end of everything, their main purpose would have had an effect. It was the effect it had on politics, on economics, and on geopolitics, with them not being used. So yeah. Now, I hope Bruce Cathy's right. Just like I hope the people who said, well, if we launched them, the aliens will come and intervene. I hope they're right. But either way, I mean, it's the fear they generate. I think it's the most thing. They keep people terrified.
And do you remember back in the 80s, it was all that bloody horrible drawing of those old people that went and hid underneath. Do you remember that? When the wind blows. And
what a horrible story. Yeah, Raymond Briggs.
On Netflix for, I don't know, bloody 5 years, 6 years. Went on Netflix about a month ago for the first time in ages. What's trending? When the wind blows.
They brought it all back.
They brought it all back to scare a new lot of people.
Yeah, you know why? Because they're trying to do the same thing again with the Russia-Ukraine situation.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It was a horrible thing.
It was a horrible book. I never saw the animated series, but
this little old lady. Oh, it's okay. Just hide under the table, dear, or something ridiculous.
Oh, it's incredibly melancholy, heartbreaking story.
Caleb tried to watch it, and I was like, Caleb, you ain't going to get 10 minutes through that.
Yeah,
and he didn't. Did he?
It's
so depressing.
It's Raymond Briggs actually was capable of horrific. Yeah, he wrote some cheerful books like Father Christmas is a great book. It's an upbeat comedy type. But then, yeah, he was capable of very, very deep descents into depression, sadness, and heartbreak. Raymond Briggs. I mean, The Snowman itself is an incredibly sad story.
Yeah. It's just so depressing.
And so is Fungus the Bogeyman also
he did that as well.
It has enormously poignant elements to it.
He sort of set a tone, didn't he? Or he was part of setting the tone of some of the horrible kind of sticky, nasty feelings we've got when we think of the 80s. I love the 80s, but there was definitely a sticky, horrible residue to thinking back on it. And he kind of set some of that tone, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I do think a lot of people look back at the 80s as this time, and the 70s as well, as a time of degeneracy and fear. And violence. I mean, I was a child in the 80s, and I was a miserable child and a frightened child, and it wasn't because of the era I was living in. In many ways, it was good era. The music was fantastic. I mean, and yes, that was my own issue with my own life. That was why I was miserable. But yeah, I can see exactly what he means. And books like that did set that tone. Yeah. Books, and there's some quite. Films that were similar. I mean, Watership Down. Watership Down that was in the late 70s, but it was a very.
Well, they made us watch that game primary school.
That's about the first time I watched in the cinema.
I was.
It's just a horrible sticky.
I watched it in the cinema. All the kids in it were crying their eyes out.
I never watched it in the cinema, but they you know, when they sometimes like got kids all around at Christmas or something to watch a telly. That's the one they made us watch.
I mean, it's children. I mean, I think children feel these things more than adults do. I certainly did.
And that's why they put it in these films for children.
Yeah, I think that's why they exactly, and this is why
to mould their little mind.
I mean, I know we're going off on many other topics here, but they show children these pictures of polar bears on melting ice floes.
Well, polar bears can swim for a start.
This is what's so horribly manipulative about the whole thing. Polar bears survived the medieval warm period absolutely fine. Yeah, they're very, very good swimmers. Yeah, I was going to say hello to people here talking about. Yeah, saints preserve us from dickheads, says Margaret. Yeah, and factor 2 million sunblock. Yes, bit worrying. Psychopaths and access to nukes. Yeah, these are the thing. I mean, they're already in the hands of the worst people imaginable. So, but more going back to John Leonard Walton, he talked about the secret bases underneath secret military bases, deep underground military bases.
It's funny you should say that.
Sitting on one now.
Well, this is. You may remember the last video I made with the Crafty Nihilist. We actually did a big exploration into this, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. It's the Ben Goes on Tour video.
You got the bloody FBI on your back, didn't you? You remember?
Oh, bloody hell! Yeah, I mean, he says he's had black helicopters flying over his house.
We infiltrated.
There is all sorts of stuff down there.
Of course there is. Absolutely.
Well, we did try to infiltrate a couple
we
of places.
infiltrated.
We did.
Rudloe Manor.
We got into Rudloe Manor.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then, but we shouldn't have done. But we did. We went in, and all it was pictures of the royal family in the windows. It was so weird.
It's weird because there's no security. I think it's been
decommissioned.
They're obviously renovating it for new purposes. But we went in there, and funnily enough, I got a privacy violation complaint on the video from someone I don't know who they were, because I was filming in there. But Rudloe Manor used to be an RAF base and a weapons dump, and various other. It was also a Cold War bunker in post World War II. Now we don't know what it's being used for. We know it's being renovated for something.
We know somebody that knows something about there being a lot of water being used there. We know somebody that knows things.
Right. Liz has been cagey because I think we can only say certain things here. Yeah.
This is always bloody cagey.
But yeah, well, it's interesting to see what maybe we should have another little trip down there to see what it looks like now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're obviously
we could go tomorrow morning before we take you.
Why not? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're in the area.
An update.
Yeah.
An update.
An
update on Ben Goes on Tour.
Yeah, that's
But no, it's certainly very interesting, and because like so many of the other military stuff, obviously in this area, it is. And you think there's connections. You've got the underground base, and it's by the box tunnel as well. And you think, are they particular things they're trying to tap into?
And why was that built there? The longest tunnel in the world, or whatever it was,
and
when it was being
and there's
built.
This weird thing that the sun shines through it on the birthday of the builder, of Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the engineer. Why did he do that?
Yeah, and the amount of people that were killed.
Well, he's a clever. Obviously, he's a clever man. He built all kinds of things.
But again, there might be a particular reason for it. I think,
And the amount of people that died there, and they don't know where they were buried. I'll tell you, some of them were buried in my garden.
The navvies,
yeah. Honestly, you need to listen to our interview that we did on Neil Peel Paranormal Show. We talk about that. I've had a really weird ghostly experience with navvies in our back garden.
I was in that one. That one too. It was a very good interview. Yeah.
Terrifying, and we can sometimes hear hobnail boots. We still dig up clay pipes, but they don't know where they buried all the navvies. There. I'm telling you, because we're the closest to the tunnel.
No health and safety laws in those days. But it just goes to show that this idea of the sun lining up with buildings, creations on Earth is a very, very ancient occult idea. It can be traced back to to Stonehenge and these other pre-Illuminati societies. It's just interesting that they decided to do that with which is essentially a railway tunnel. It's it's an amazing achievement. It was, as you say, at the time, it was the longest tunnel in the world.
What you got, and it makes you wonder as well. Okay, what other building? All the megaliths. We literally went to Avebury today and did the moon and the sun, and we're going there we're going to Glasgow next week to see the sun and blah 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 blah. what other modern buildings that we don't even think about checking have got this? You know, Göbekli Tepe. Mark went there, and JJ discovered that the sun shines on this face or something, didn't she? What modern buildings have got all this, and we just don't think to look? Do you know what I mean? There must be.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have actually done a little bit of investigation into this myself to try and find that out. I mean, I can't remember the details now, but it was one of my earliest videos. Actually, was I went around looking at things like that. There's a good question.
Interesting, isn't it?
It's likely the Illuminati are still using these to channel energy.
100%, they must be.
Yeah. Now, there's a base. There is another underground segment underneath the village of Peasmore in Berkshire. I've been to Peasmore. I deliberately went there.
Oh yeah, I've seen that video.
It's fun making that video because it's so out of the way. There's no bus goes there. You get a bus to a nearby place and then just walk. And it takes about an hour and a half to walk there. If you haven't got a car, it's really difficult to get to Peasmore. I found nothing there to indicate there was anything strange going on. And indeed, I did other areas where the gates of this base are supposed to be. The only strange thing I did find out was at the Harwell Laboratories, which is said to be the site of the Delta Gate, as it's called. There is a large mound of what could be spoil from underground diggings. It's not marked on any maps, even though it's big enough to be marked on a map. And I don't know what that's doing there. But basically, there's nothing to indicate. I mean, Sauder's laws. I read Richard Sauder's books on underground bases because he wrote a whole series of books on how to discover them. Look for small buildings with large car parks. Look for buildings with heat haze above them because they could be outlets for.
We were doing that, weren't we? We were walking around looking for all of these things, weren't we?
Yeah.
We did find a few. Well, we did find lumps, and we did find vents.
Oh yeah. Well, we know it's definitely under there, don't we? I mean, I think because they've got a lot, like a science park, as they call it, around there. So I think there's probably a lot of the situation where it's supposedly private companies, but they're probably obviously connected.
Use private companies.
I need to take a slight break. I'll be back in a moment.
Yeah. They use private companies because for you, if you want some information on what they're doing, private companies don't have to give it to you, whereas the government do. So that's why they use private companies to cover up all this shit. But you're swimming solo, Mark.
But I think we seeing. I can't remember what site it was, but somewhere on YouTube, and someone was doing aerial, I think, drone photography around Rudloe and over this science park, and they were speculating that it was another version or an extra version of sort of GCHQ, and that they build like an adjunct, if you like, a GCHQ2, and that was just down here, potentially. Made sense maybe, but who knows what goes on there. I mean, they've got all those, there's so much there, and obviously we saw those huge great trucks arrive with something on the back. So
lockdown with just before lockdown.
Well, all the communications go through there, don't they?
Yeah, so it's like a
sort of caboodle.
There you go. So it's GCHQ, and obviously
God knows what they've got down there.
I mean, it is.
Let's not think about it really.
And we did. Have you ever heard the humming box?
Not really. No.
Oh my God! For months and months and months. How many years ago? 10 years ago?
Less than that. Well,
no, it was before my mum.
Right.
About 10 years ago. He couldn't hear it, but it used to keep me up at night. And if I used to plug my ears in or do that, it got louder. So it was obviously not. It was obviously sort of like, you know, when you get the vibrations of a noise, and sometimes you do that and it's louder for some reason. It was louder when I put fingers in my ears, but Mark couldn't hear it.
No, wasn't so sensitive, maybe, but
because there was one in Bristol, wasn't there?
Watch your step,
I can't remember if it was around the same time as that.
Well, that's been an ongoing thing, hasn't it?
Bristol hum.
Hum.
But honest to God, there was a box hum. Honestly,
we talk about hum,
months and months.
What's causing that? Because there's like
something drilling underground. I'm telling you that now.
It's quite common. It's only certain areas get it.
Yeah.
But people hear it. I mean, it's an external sound. You know, they can plug their ears up and it stops.
That's exactly what happened.
It's not coming. It's not tinnitus.
No, that's exactly what happened to me. It got louder when I plugged my ears up.
I've seen quite a few on YouTube lately of hum noises in the sky.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's like
the sky. Yes.
Noises.
Skyquakes. Yeah, they noises that come out of the sky.
And also weird trumpeting noises and things like that. Terrifying.
What's causing? Is it something to do with HARP or chemtrails?
Yeah, who knows, Ben?
It's something you think maybe a frequency thing of something that they're playing with. But, and then you got all
maybe
the
a magnetic thing or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
won't
some-
it?
exactly.
electrical or magnetic or something like that.
Mm.
But the way you see these videos, terrifying.
Yeah.
And guess what? Some of them sound like your stereotypical, the films we've all watched of aliens, the noise that the spaceships make. Some of those noises sound like that. So if you heard that outside, you think there's an alien invasion. Immediately, it's exactly the same noise as what we've been programmed to think is a spaceship.
Well, it's possible they will say that. They may even be able to project images in the sky using Project Bluebeam and say, well, the aliens are invading. We need to come together and fight back, as Ronald Reagan said. We will come together and forget our differences. We need a global state of emergency to fight back against the aliens. Temporary, of course. Temporary, and then when we've defeated the alien threat, the power that the government has taken from the people, we will return to the people.
Of course,
honest.
We've only got a special interest.
We swear, we promise you.
Once we've done a couple of things.
Yeah. and then we'll start being nice to you again. And we'll give up all the power we took from you. But of course, the reality is. When governments take power very easily, but they don't give it back very well. It takes you have to force them to give it back, and it takes a lot of effort. They're not willing to give it back once you take that power. You have to stop them in the first place. Which means we need to take a moment of pause if they do try and play that trick on us. The last card, as Carol Rosin said, the last card.
But they're not giving us any time to pause, are they? Especially with this new hair Stalin. Boom! All of a sudden, the dying thing, the assisted dying things come through. They're talking about homeschooling should be illegal, and all these things are coming in so quickly.
I know.
They're not giving us breathing space or even but then something's going on over there. Look over there, so that we're not even noticing this bullshit that's going on.
They're saying about the state taking over parental responsibility for children.
Yeah. Oh my fucking Christ!
Yeah.
And what was that other thing? There was another. Absolutely, it gets to the point where you look at the news now and you're not surprised, and you've either got to roll your eyes or you just go into such a depression.
Because we've seen this coming for decades.
I know.
They've laughed at us.
But it was
they call us lunatics.
I
know.
It wasn't supposed to happen.
We said this would happen. I mean, some people are actually admitting it, and they've said this to me. They've said, Ben, I'm sorry, we were right all along.
I've had one person say that.
Just one. All right. I've had maybe half a dozen.
Have you?
But most of them, others are not. Others are just sort of like running around like hellish chickens.
To me, because of the jibber jabber.
Then we're not going to get far in policing the homeschooling thing, though. I mean, a lot
there's
of the
going to be
kids
there'll be a battle. There will be resistance.
School refusers, aren't they?
There will
so
be
good
resistance.
luck with that.
Yeah.
No, they're bringing it. Have you read? Because I've been looking at this. I've posted a post about this. This thing called Sarah Sharif. This is horrific, absolutely horrific. Horrific abuse case. And I said to Mark, they never post this much graphic detail. They always say, this is too graphic, we're not putting it on. Well, they put the bloody graphic detail on this time. And I said to Mark, why are they doing this? What's going on? And then boom, the headline. Homeschooling for abused children should happen. Now, that's great. Of course, abused children should not be isolated. But what happens when they change the terms of what abuse is? And abuse is, they taught their children that climate change wasn't real. They taught their children that acupuncture works. That's abuse. You're not homeschooling your kid. All they've got to do is move the goalposts.
Yeah. I mean, this is all.
Wankers.
Yeah, this is kind of Teresa Tannehill brought this up. It's all. Of course, this is all based on the assumption that there will be no effective resistance to it, and there will.
There will, but they do it so quick, Ben. That's what I mean.
We are,
quick. All of a sudden, Esther Ransom wants assisted dying. Boom, it's happened. They're doing it so quickly now, aren't they?
And that's it's really worrying. I mean, it's like
that's the trouble.
Yeah, because I've changed my mind a lot on this lately. Because I used to be pro assisted dying.
Same here.
I'm now against it. But the reason I'm against it's not because I'm against the ethical principles of it.
To suffer.
Yeah, I'm not against it. It's not because of the ethical principles. It's because of the realpolitik situation of this, about how this as a banner said at one of the protests, it's not going to be our choice for long.
Exactly.
This, you have the choice, we're going to put pressure on you to do it. We've seen this in Canada with the MAID and medical assistance in dying. People are being sent leaflets, even people who are not terminally ill are being sent flyers saying, have you ever thought about snuffing yourself out.
Well, they're actually doing something with benefits now where
One woman was sent it. Oh, she applied for a wheelchair ramp in her house because she's a wheelchair user,
yeah.
and she was sent a maid leaflet
She
saying
want to die, love.
she was so
So we don't have
furious.
to send you a fucking wheelchair.
She was so
But there's
furious.
something about benefits now saying if your love, I think it's in this country, and I don't know the details. This is second hand, where it's if your loved one dies a certain age or something, you can get so much of their pension.
Oh,
so
right.
Of course you're gonna be like, here, granny.
Get rid of granny, yeah.
And that will fucking happen.
Yeah.
That will fucking happen.
Then the
Is
family
elder
members are
abuse
going to put
not a
pressure.
thing? Yes, elder
It's
abuse
essentially,
is a thing.
yeah.
Coercion. They're going to be coerced into it. It's fucking outrageous.
Yeah.
It's just one step closer to. It ain't going to be a choice.
No.
It's not going to be a choice.
It's going to go from you have the right to choose, as you know, like they have the Dignitas clinic in Switzerland. It's going to go from that to more and more mounting pressure. We know that certain elements of the population, you don't have to pressure them very much.
Exactly.
I mean, there is an old Arabian saying which goes, if it ever became fashionable to make biscuits out of camel dung, most people would eat them. Meaning that you, and this is what's happened in over 10,000 people have ended their lives with MAID in Canada only in the last, since 2021. There's a huge number of people. It's going to be like Soylent Green, the film Soylent Green, which has been remade. It's just been remade amazingly about this future world in which people can, people can opt for a death, and they even have this thing called a sarcopod, which is a 3D printed like gas chamber. You go and sit in it, and it literally it'll replace the air inside it with pure nitrogen gas, which provides a quick and painless death.
Amazing.
And you can even listen to music and watch movies while it happens, as in Soylent Green, which where this guy's lying in a bed and they're playing lovely images and he's hearing music and then he just dies. Hey Margaret, thanks very much, Margaret. You're right. Yeah, Trojan wards. Yes, Trojan horse. You let it in. It looks harmless, even attractive, but it's got something deadly inside it, and that's what these policies are. So yeah, absolutely.
How many did the petition get up to? Anybody got any latest?
Was it crossed 3 million? Yeah, it was slowing down, but we thought it would peak above 3 million.
But you know that the person that's at the figurehead of this is Joe Cox's sister.
Yeah, laughing Kim Leadbeater. Yeah,
Ledbetter, whatever name.
For the assisted dying.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Laughing Kim. Yeah. You want to know why she's called Laughing Kim? That's her nickname. Watch Rich Planet TV.
Watch Richard Planet's breakdown. She's the one that got murdered.
Apparently.
With regards to Brexit. Yeah.
The guy who supposedly did it now has sort of disappeared. They can't even his relatives can't visit him in jail. So yeah. So yeah, it's these are the things that but you see there is backlash against it. There is resistance and
I really hope that they are showing us their cards too much.
I think they are.
I really hope, because they're 2030 is the big number. We got to get it done by then. I really fucking hope that people are like, what? I really hope that this is too much.
Why the rush?
Quick.
Yeah. Why the rush? Why are they so suddenly desperate to stir things up as quickly as possible in Ukraine? This sending strategic missiles to Ukraine is a massive provocation. Why have they done that? See, it's
who exactly has done that?
Well,
who is it?
Whoever's controlling these governments. I mean, you say they're showing their card. Well, in the United States, it's obvious that Joe Biden is not running the country. He can barely run his own life.
But guess what? When Mark said that to somebody who's supposed to be intelligent and an academic, he disagreed. And what can you do with these people?
Yeah, that Joe Biden is so compos mentis, that he's some kind of genius.
He might have moments of clarity.
Only when he's dosed up on amphetamines. They're going to kill that guy simply by trying to keep him coherent on TV.
He has moments of clarity.
Maybe he'll go for assisted dying.
Actually, he could be the first one.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have some famous people, aren't they?
The thing that got our channel banned for 2 weeks, and
possibly don't say again.
9 seconds, a record. I put it up. 9 seconds later, it was down. Do you remember? It was when we were going to start doing fortnightly things like this.
Yeah.
And then I got banned for 2 bloody weeks.
Yeah.
And it was because, I won't go into too much detail, Bill Gates, in his own words, saying, do you think we should kill people for the last 6 months of their life because it's going to save us so much more money than keeping them alive? That came out of Bill Gates's mouth. That was the quickest thing that got banned and got us a strike.
Yeah. So bye everyone.
Because we were over the target.
Yeah, exactly. This is if they're giving you a hard time, it means you're over the target.
Yeah.
You're on the right track. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. Yeah, Johnny and Margaret. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, back on the subject of UFOs. Apparently, according to John Gridkeeper and John Wolson, some of them appear to be invisible, but you can see them with. They're invisible. They seem to have some kind of cloaking mechanism for visible light, but you can see them in infrared. And indeed, he has a device for doing that. He has like a camera, and this reminds me of which shows infrared. And he says he can see so much more of them that way, which is odd because this reminds me of Nick Hayes, a guy we know.
Both of us, yeah.
Good fellow he is. He lives.
Fantastic man.
He's the closest. He's the second closest woo-woo to me after Tony Chin. Lives in Abingdon. He has been observing these for many years in his garden, going back to Wilhelm Reich, using the cloudbuster to attract them and then filming them using a special camera. The last speaker, we'll wait till Liz gets back to go into big details, was Thomas Mikey Jensen. Now, he's a Danish man who talks a lot about several different subjects. Now, he said something, because he says he is in the Danish Coast Guard. And one of their jobs is to defend Danish territorial waters from ships that appear to be behaving suspiciously. And he said that they've arrested several sea captains and they've boarded several ships and they have drones on board, which they're not supposed to carry. They don't have a license for. And he believes that the drones we're seeing over the military bases around the world at the moment are in fact man-made. They're sophisticated military reconnaissance unmanned aircraft, and so I mean I'm not so sure. I think did we talk about that earlier? Have we talked about it?
We talked a little bit, but not on.
Yeah, we didn't mention it on here. Yeah.
No.
In my view, the fact that what would happen is it's a reckless action to fly unmanned aircraft over a nation. It could be described as an act of war. It's similar to the U-2 spy plane incident in 1960 when a pilot called Gary Powers was shot down, an American flying a experimental secret spy plane. This caused a massive diplomatic incident. Supposing one of these drones from Russia or China flying over our military bases, one of them released a weapon or even crashed accidentally onto someone, killing them or injuring them or destroying property, this would cause such a massive diplomatic incident. And there's a possibility this could, like as Thomas said, he says that some of these things may be false flags and that it's a pretext for war. He believes the US Air Force are actually flying these things and pretending they're Chinese and Russian. But I think it's suspicious that none of the anti-drone weapons have worked so far as we know. These are the ones that they've had at Gatwick Airport and other places where you can bring a drone down, you can bring it into a controlled descent with an electromagnetic transmission. Also, no operator has been arrested on the ground. What I think may well be happening is these are something else. These are unidentified aerial phenomena, whatever you want to call them, and the drones is like a code word. In the same way as we used to say balloons or swamp gas, and that's what I think may be happening.
I listened to some, can't remember who it was on YouTube, who was discussing the drones, and it was interesting. And they were saying, because you get that thing as well that some people are looking out and they go, oh, I see some lights. So then you have more people observing the sky. And there's a lot more people who haven't actually studied a lot of aeroplanes as well. Because a lot of those drones have got the red and green lights, haven't they? So they're saying, oh, it's a bit odd that they actually are following these aeroplane codes with the red and green lights and stuff. But, more people are going, oh, what the fuck is that in the sky? And it's actually, it's actually a helicopter, because I haven't seen that many.
They're not used to seeing it.
Yeah, you're not used to looking.
Well, when we got our what was it? Our ultra, what is it? Our night vision camera. We went out And I was having a nervous breakdown because I kept seeing these UFOs. And Mark's like, that's Bristol Airport.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I was
It
like, oh.
does, yeah.
There are a huge number of videos that have come out of this phase, and some of them are, as you say, they're obviously aircraft. Some are real drones because a lot of them are amateur operators who've gone to this location to try and get in on the action. So there are a large number of drones in these areas. There are some, though, that appear to obey the 5 observables. Of course, I don't know how many are fake and how many are not.
What
are they?
Instantaneous acceleration, low observability, transmedium travel, and no apparent means of lift or propulsion. And the 5th one I can't remember, but there's a list of the 5 observables of what constitutes a UAP. If, for example, this is an uptick and again an increase and an escalation in the interests of non-human intelligence in our world, you've got to ask why. Why now? Again, it's focused on military bases. Is this because of the higher risk of war? I mean, it's hard to know what's going on.
Well, and there's been all the stuff in the American Senate, hasn't there, with all the disclosures going on, so it's very topical.
This could be a response, couldn't it, from the ETs?
Well, you never know, do you? You know, don't really know what's going on, but there's been a lot more
some people think it's all the prophecies of the fallen angels, and they're showing the apocalypse, Armageddon, and some people equate it to that whether or not that is real, because I say anybody can do a prophecy and make it come true. You can say a prophecy 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, and I think they did, and now all of a sudden it's coming true. Yeah. So they're getting geared up for the. I mean, Project Bluebeam could be the coming of the Messiah, couldn't it? Yeah. It could be anything they want it to be. You know what I mean? They could mold it to that. Or maybe it really is, what is it, the Elohim? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, I mean, Serge Monast, the guy who published a book about Project Bluebeam, before he died in his prison cell of a heart attack.
Another one?
Probably a 9mm heart attack in the back of his head. Yeah. Another one, yeah. He said he thought that they'd use religious figures, but it doesn't have to be. These holograms can create anything. Someone actually says here, Margaret says, what if it's a hologram? Yeah,
because we talked about the things that, and ionizing the sky. We've talked about that before, and we've actually talked about holograms quite a lot, haven't we? And these amazing holograms, like fish coming out of buildings, and people run away.
This is not secret technology. It can be done.
The hologram technology is people run away from it.
All you need to project a realistic 3-dimensional image into the sky is a computer, a laser projector, and some kind of medium, which could be something. Could be a cloud of smoke or steam. You don't need anything. You don't need anything particularly substantial.
Oh, Jimmy Raw, Bluebeam mushroom clouds that would put the willies up. Yeah.
There's Margaret makes a good point. They let a balloon go over the States for days. Right. Margaret is referring to what happened in the last year, in February and March last year, during what I call Object Gate. There's Balloon Gate followed by Object Gate. I've done a lot of material on this myself. A Chinese spy balloon flew over the United States. It was, they didn't shoot it down even when it was over a remote area. They waited till it was over the sea. They didn't wait till it was too far out to sea, because they didn't want it sinking without trace. They wanted it to come down in shallow water so it could be salvaged. But then days later, they said, well, some more things are flying over the States now and Canada, but they wouldn't say what they were. They called them objects. They wouldn't say what they were. But we know that they were shot down, or they came down some way or another. And at least one that was filmed was the crash retrieval was filmed from a distance, because there's a guy called Backcountry Alaska who's really maybe done the world a huge service, because he's an oil worker in the Alaskan oil fields, and he witnessed the shooting down of an object over the Beaufort Sea. And I say sea, over that time of year, that sea is completely frozen over, and so planes were coming in and picking it up, and vehicles were driving over to it, and things like that. Yeah.
And that guy became famous, didn't he?
Backcountry Alaska, yeah.
Yeah. He was just some random guy, and then all of a sudden he was like on the spot, going, "What the fuck?"
He was in the right place at the right time to record this. Yeah.
I remember that. Did they ever get to the bottom of that?
No, well, the crash retrieval. They said they didn't say what it was. They called it an object, and they wouldn't actually say anything more about it.
When they said it was a China balloon, it's a balloon from China. They kept saying it.
Well, the first one was. I mean, it was filmed. It was actually filmed, but then the 4 was it 3 or 4? There was one in Alaska, there was 3, one in Alaska, one in Yukon, Canada, and another one over Lake Huron. Those 3 were all listed as objects. And that's what Margaret is referring to here. It's a bit similar to these drone stories. I mean, for all we know, that drones could simply be a code word they're using for UAP now, because they don't want to say we have UFOs because even UAP now is a bit too alarming. And it could be, like you just said, Sally, this could be a direct response to the fact that the government is now appearing to come clean on some of its interactions with these things.
We live in a strange time, don't we?
It is, and
Lily says
I mean, that is disclosure, really, if you want it, isn't it?
if they admit there's
what's happening in the American Senate, although it doesn't seem to be hitting Radio 4 much.
It's they haven't been Radio 4, but it's
it's real.
They're essentially saying they haven't got quite to the point where they've said, well, we're being interacted with by non-human intelligence, but they have essentially hinted that is the case, and they kind of said, well, it's not this, it's not that, so what is it? We don't know. Could it be aliens? We don't know. But then what does it leave? What, using the process of elimination, when they've eliminated all these other things, what's left? And we have people like Llewellyn talking about the 5 observables, and even officials in the government are admitting this.
And do you think there's something about more and more discoveries are being made about what's happening in space, aren't there? So there's sort of places that may have water or something like that. Sort of,
they found water all over the place now, liquid water on the.
And that was always the sort of call for life, wasn't it? So now they found it. The sort of, models need to change. Are they hinting? Yeah.
But
actually,
it's a good question, isn't it? I mean, how much? If there's lots of planets out there with life, and then it's obvious there's going to be some that are intelligent. Obvious that some will develop the technology to travel in space, as we have. We have too. Even in the public domain, we can travel short distances in space. It's. I think what this could be some kind of response to that. I mean, the ETs may be interested in what we're saying about them. And now this brings us on to something else, because the second subject that Mikey James Jensen talked about was the fact that there is distinct evidence for the presence in the distant past of extraterrestrial activity or some kind of intelligent activity on planet Mars. There are structures there that appear to be artificially built. We've all heard of the face on Mars and the pyramids and things, but this is more. He's discovered more things like that. And the second part of his talk was all about that. And he was talking to a guy called William Whitecrow, and who said that he was part of the secret space program and went to Mars. And there's someone called Andrew Basiago who was backing him up, a former presidential candidate. And although there's no evidence for this, when you put it into the context of the other things we discovered, especially Martin Colburn, we have to think maybe that's true. And another thing that William Whitecrow unexpectedly committed suicide just before he was going to do an interview with Thomas. And he had no history of that.
It's probably just a coincidence.
The day before he bought a new computer.
You sound like a conspiracy theorist, man.
I do, don't I? Yes.
You look like a
underneath this, I have a tinfoil hat under my gnome thing. You see, I've got a tinfoil hat under there.
Yeah, you haven't done that for the new people.
Oh yeah,
we
you see.
got Jimmy, we got Jimmy's in, Lily's in. I don't think.
Hello, guys. Yeah, do you like my?
This is for the new people.
Jim Lars says, "Fucking love you guys. Thank you very much, Jim."
Love you too, Jimmy.
Oh right, Lily says right on Fox News arrests. Oh, this is breaking news here. Arrests over drones. Really, Lily? Blimey.
I'll check that out later.
Yes. Oh, I mean, we'll look into that, because I mean that would be interesting, Lily, because they did arrest someone over the so-called Gatwick drones. Now those 2 people were released eventually, and indeed the couple are suing the police for wrongful arrest. What I believe happened with Gatwick, I don't think there's anything UFO related. The computer system broke down, but they didn't want to pay out the compensation to the passengers, so they made up the drone story to wriggle out of it.
3 hours ago, 2 men arrested after drone flies dangerously close to Boston's Logan Airport.
All right. Oh, here we go. Right. This is the story.
Half the press from Lily.
Thanks, Lily. Yes, 2 men arrested. Drone flies dangerously close. Boston's Logan Airport, a Delta airplane. So this is very similar to the Gatwick story.
Yeah.
They were arrested on trespassing charges after a drone came dangerously close. Yes. The incident was on Saturday afternoon when a Boston police officer detected a UAS, unmanned aerial system, dangerously close to the airport. Right. You can look this up yourself, but it sounds very similar to the situation in Robert Duffy, 42, and Jeremy Follick, 32, of Bridgewater, Massachusetts, were arrested on charges of trespassing. Right. So we'll see how this goes. But thanks very much, Lily, for that. This sounds similar to the issue with Gatwick, although we'll see whether they are charged or not, because I said in Gatwick, the couple were released without charge.
There was also some sort of prediction, wasn't there, that about 36 days ago, there was somebody saying something to do with Trump or something.
Yes.
And then they said, and there was going to be a great big disclosure on December the 6th, or,
What it was, yeah.
The only thing that I saw at that time was that
Video of it.
Robert van der Broek thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very...
Yeah, what it was, it was a guy called Cliff High who invented the webbot in the 90s. This is like a system which we would today call AI. In those days, they didn't use that term. But it basically trawled the internet looking for certain words and phrases in certain contexts and make predictions from that. And Nexus magazine did an article on this because everyone was claiming this has clairvoyant powers. All it actually really did was it made predictions based on what people were talking about at the time. And there's nothing new about this. I mean, people have done this since before the invention of computers by studying magazines and things like that. These people like Gallup pollsters would carry out opinion polls, things like that. So you could make perspectives and predictions of what's going to happen in the future based on that. All that happens is the webbot did it a lot better, and indeed it was very accurate when it came to things which we do control, like trends in the economy and politics and technology. Yes, it did. What it can't do is it can't predict things which are outside human control, like natural disasters, like the weather, things like that. So the prediction that Cliff High made, and I watched the interview with Cliff High, and he's a right space cadet.
Honestly, I've been listening to him for years, and half the time I don't know what he's banging on about.
He's so like Terence McKenna.
Yeah, but he's been taking drugs.
Oh, he has like turned into a one-man reggae band. This guy, he is. He's such a space cadet. Yeah. And he's like, because he talks a lot about like reincarnation and the spirit world and various ayahuasca and
the Elohim and the Mother Weffers. I quite like that.
Yeah, he's actually really cool. I actually like him.
He thinks the
he's really cool.
Are coming back.
But what he said was that the prediction he made was, this was back in 2011, was that 39 days. He said in 2024, Joe Rogan would do an interview with Donald Trump.
That was it, yeah.
And 39 days later, the aliens would invade. Now, the workings. The problem is he won't reveal the workings of his webbot completely, because he actually used to sell predictions to people, and he kept it very secret. His trade secrets.
He's actually had been beaten up about it, and he's had like the black helicopters, and he's had black cars following him, and people trying to buy it off him. Government agencies and.
It's interesting because in those days, Joe Rogan was still an MMA fighter, and Trump was still like a businessman. It was actually only a few years later that Trump ran for president the first time. But what's interesting is that that day came and went, and the aliens did not invade. However, there's still what he calls what's the term he uses?
Anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe unless they already are, unless the drones. That is the drones, maybe.
Data sets.
It could be the data sets. He says that the temporal potential, I think he called it the temporal potential, is actually still going to be in existence for another couple of months. So it could still happen. I mean, maybe, like I said, maybe these drones are that. I don't know. But you've got to ask the question: how would a webbot know that? How would a webbot that simply searches the
nobbled because his wife got extremely ill,
because of maybe that time traveler aspect as well, isn't it? That of course sort of surrounds the Trump thing as well. That he's a time traveler because of the connection with what we were on about earlier, and the book. There was a book.
Oh, there's a book with Baron Trump in.
Yeah, well, yeah, and so there's been suggestions of time travel. And then, you know, it could be just political.
Or
sort
it's
of
predictions. Like my prediction is, I'm going to be fat in January. How do I know that? Because I know I'm going to eat a load of fucking food in January.
Exactly, but you don't have to be a genius. You don't, Uri Geller could work that out without using any psychic powers, I'm sure.
Not that Liz is going to be.
But you know, doing the thing about that on the telly.
Yeah, but it's you see, because he won't reveal the workings of it. We don't know whether it's being used, whether it's been invaded by some kind of, it's being used as some kind of EVP, a bit like that Loab thing, you know, where this AI art bot started producing this horrible, scary, ugly woman, and no one knows how, and some people have suggested that the computer was infected by a demon. It could be that, but when it comes to predictions, there's another problem, and it is the paradox of backwards time travel. So when people talk about time travel going backwards in time, or information going backwards in time, they are probably referring to something interdimensional rather than time travel. In other words, these are messages from other universes that resemble Earth's own past. You see, this is the thing. Jim says, side note, those two twats that sprayed Stonehenge have pleaded not guilty. Not those horrible people. Yeah. Maria Wheatley, steam was coming out of her ears.
Just Stop Oil protesters.
Yeah.
Vandals who spraying a
I'm not
aside.
getting half of the bloody things that are coming up here.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, the Roll Right Stones were also covered in yellow paint a while ago. No one knows why. No one knows why. It took ages to get it off.
Absolute wankers.
And they tried.
I'd love your opinion on that, Robert Vanderbroek.
Oh well,
clip.
let me know because I'll have a look at it and I'll let you know. Yeah.
What is that?
Robert Vanderbroek. I think he's the Dutch medium.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Who was sort of, I heard about from crop circles years ago, so vaguely followed him, but it's a bit difficult because my Dutch is not Dutch. And
mine's non-existent, mate.
Mine's rusty.
Put something up where he was doing this meditation. I think I sent it you in Messenger, maybe, if you want. And he put this meditation up and shows these sort of spirit
on
things.
Facebook? Because I disconnected my Facebook because I got really pissed off with people in America that like redhead.
I'll show you. I'll show you after.
Yeah.
Please,
have a look, people.
He's an interesting chap, Robert Vanderbroek. The skeptics hate him. The skeptics are always attacking him. Yeah.
Sorry.
The skeptics.
He
must be good then. Yeah.
But he puts himself out there, doesn't he? And you just think, well, is that true? Is that not true? Is that right? Who knows,
as you know, I have an open mind. As my friends here will know, I have an open mind when it comes to things like spiritualism and mediums. I'm not against them at all. Doesn't mean I agree every single word that they say, but I do.
No, it's just being open to the notions of it, isn't it?
Perfectly.
It's interdimensional communication, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, you come to your end. You closed.
Yeah, well, that covers the whole. The basis project is my Truth Seekers notebook that was given to me by Truth Seekers Northeast. I love it. It's great, isn't it? Yeah. I've been using that for years.
And the quote on the back from Mark Twain.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. Yeah, and there's lots of others through here. I won't show you them all because there's some private information here. But in a time,
tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
Yeah, it's really cool. There's so much. I've been using that for years. It's still only half full, hunched over. That's the base. You're welcome.
No, thanks, Ben.
This has been a great.
We had an Avery experience. Well, me and Mark did. We lost Sally,
but we found her again. We found Sally and me. We found her.
But I mentioned briefly. We
had a bit of a brilliant experience in the stone circles, but maybe I know Pete's going to do a write-up on that. Maybe we'll do a separate thing about that and our amazing experience. We had quite the activation ourselves under the moon, because something's going on with the moon tonight, isn't it, Mark? Do you want to talk about that in 2 seconds flat?
Yeah, it's like a lunar standstill. It's every 18.6 years. So the moon is I think it sort of appears longer in its position, so it's like it sort of stopped moving for a while to do with the orbits. But yeah, I mean, I'm running out of.
This was this is to do. I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but I know that at a certain point the moon has effects like it will appear to turn. It's to do with the relative motion of the Earth and the Moon, and it appears at a certain point and then it changes. I mean, there's some ancient sites record this, like Callanish records it, and Maria, I know, knows so much about this. She's one of the world's leading experts on this sort of thing. But I missed it. It was very cloudy, and I'm full of food and drinks. So I didn't go out with them. I stayed in the pub.
We didn't see the moon at first, but then the clouds did magically just disperse for a little bit, and we got a nice glimpse of the full moon.
Yeah, and we made a spiral, and a lot of us had some quite electrifying feelings.
Yeah, that was around the cove stones, the main thing.
We did a little manifestation, and we did a bit of meditation, and in Avebury today.
Yeah,
and it was
fabulous.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
we had our dowsing rods, didn't we?
Yep. So great place
it's been
again.
A great day.
I did have a walk around the stones earlier on in the day when it was light, before I went in for dinner, and it's a magical place, Avebury, if you've not been there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
did a talk on it the other week. If people want to listen back for any information, I think there's a machine behind us that's going to beep off in a minute.
There's the Connor's machine.
Yeah.
So should we wrap up at this point?
Yeah.
Everyone's saying thanks very much, and I appreciate everyone who's joined in.
Thank you all for listening, watching.
Maybe Sally's secret hand.
It's Sally.
Yay! Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. It's Sally's hand. Bye.
So many hands.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
You're hitting me in the face with your ears. Oh, gnomes in cars. There were some gnomes in cars. Gnomes in cars.